Well, I enjoyed my visit and conversation with Mirko, Frank, and Ari about evolving infrastructures. I hope that you did too. Thanks, gentlemen, for sharing your time and expertise with us. It was great stuff. With our final deep dive of the day, we're going to take a look at standardization for intercarrier automation. For that, I'm joining special guest Simen Altman, VP Business Development, Amartus, Daniele Mancuso, Chief Product Management, Sparkle, and Laurent, Sevette, Senior Director, Network Architecture and Engineering, Lumen. Guys, beam me up. Guys? What? Must be out of range. Well, thankfully, at least I still got that magic thing going for me. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here they are, excited that they're on the screen with me. Glad that you can share some time and share so much of your expertise. If you don't mind, and Daniele, why don't we start off with yourself? If you could each just give me a brief moment about yourselves and what you're excited about being here for.
Sure, John, thank you. Hello, everybody. My name is Daniele Mancuso. I am Chief Product Management at Sparkle. So basically responsible for all of the products and clusters of the company, starting from the very low undersea submarine cables up to the cloud. And I also hold positions as a MEF director and C-band director. Thank you.
Awesome. No, thank you so very much. And Simen, why don't you take us next?
Thank you, John. So Simen Altman, VP of Business Development at Amartus. Amartus are a vendor, a software solution developer, both in orchestration and automation. But in the last couple of years, we've been very much driving within MEF and our customers intercarrier automation. So obviously, I'm super excited to have the chance to talk about this subject with my colleagues on this call today. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thanks for being with us. And of course, Laurent.
Thank you, John. I'm glad to be here today. So I head up the network architecture and engineering at Lumen in EMEA, essentially responsible for the technology function, similarly to Daniele, from going up from the subsea all the way to the cloud.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. And Laurent, I'm going to stay with you and we're going to jump right into some questions for our audience here. If you could help me understand, what is our common definition for federations? Can we agree between panelists such consortium, ecosystems, or community of interest actually exists right now today?
That's right. That's a very, very good point, John. And I was keen for us to start this session having here both Simen and Daniele, experts in this field, between all of us to actually agree on what a federation means. I feel that over the past few years, the term federation would have evolved in the context of us pushing out the digital experience and helping out businesses transforming across the industry, and perhaps now the digital service provider actually responding to the needs of the federation. The federation being perhaps an alliance of businesses sharing a common value goal. With the underlying federated network relying on different suppliers to support similar attributes, like, for example, a common identity management. The implication, going back to the service provider, to the digital service provider, is that we have going forward to support orchestrated services, multi-cloud diversity, and software-defined networks. To support the goal of transformation, digital transformation of federations going forward.
Awesome. Well, then continue for me, if you will. To what extent does an API marketplace really support the digital transformation of federations?
API marketplace, I feel personally that every single carrier, every single service provider out there will have their own. We're all going to be building the tools, the platform available for our customers to have the building block, helping them out through their transformation journey. They will all provide artifacts, SDKs, APIs, Postman scripts. How do we actually prove their value? I think that's what's key for me. And going forward, I come a standardized approach, a story that our vision that the MEF is actually pushing out there. This standardized approach will actually allow our end users and customers to seamlessly switch from one digital service provider to another. Again, supporting their transformation, supporting the evolution of the business in the context of the fourth industrial revolution, or Industry 2.0 as it's more commonly known in EMEA. I think the API marketplace should have there all the tools, all the attributes available for our customers and customers to actually support their development and their evolution going forward.
So thank you, Laurent. So Daniele, how do we continue on this and think about service providers, and how can service providers really cope with this revolution that we're seeing?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question, John, and thank you for asking me. Actually, it's really a revolution. Today, service provider has to cope with the requirements coming from their enterprise customers that in turn are driven by their consumer customers. What is driving today is the experience that consumers are having in their smartphone every day when they are using apps. So enterprises wants to develop apps that are satisfying those requirements, and they need probably to implement infrastructure, security, connectivity, and all other kind of components of this very complex service chaining in a matter of minutes, because the consumer customers are educated to receive everything now, everything on demand. They want to use, to pay for what they use, and that's it, and not to keep on paying. So, first of all, service providers are evolving and are specializing on different layers of this complex service chaining. It's very unlikely that a service provider will be able to provide what Laurent was saying before, a digital service in its entire end-to-end flavor all at once within its own infrastructure. That's why also the federation must evolve. It's not simply to order a piece of connectivity from somebody else that you have contractual relationships with, but it's also to implement another layer of the service using something that somebody else is specialized in. Now, when you think to this end-to-end scenario, the common language is something of paramount importance. So API, standardization, common way to exchange parameters such as address location, such as SLA that the customer expects, such as the contracted timetable is needed, and it's a must. So service providers needs to implement all those functionalities within their OSS and BSS systems, but also service providers should start having partnership agreements for pieces of the stack on which they are not specialized in.
Wow. So if they're implementing all those functionalities and the different layers, as you mentioned, I mean, how do you feel this is truly affecting the Sparkle business?
Well, if we want to analyze what Sparkle is doing there, I believe we need to look a little bit wider than the boundaries of Sparkle and look at the entire team group, the Telecom Italia group, what we are doing there. Team group is evolving towards a kind of specialization per each company of the group. Sparkle is, of course, the looking glass of Telecom Italia out of the Italian borders. But through other companies within the Telecom Italia perimeter, we are able to offer IoT capabilities, where Sparkle is providing the international connectivities and Olivetti is providing the application layers and the device management. We can provide outstanding security service through Telsi, which is another entity within the group. We can provide the cloud functionalities, not just workloads, infrastructure, and the localization, but also security cloud functions within the data center of Nuvol, which is a new company that was recently spinned off by Telecom Italia. So if you put all this together, this is really a very small ecosystem within the same shareholder, but in turn able to provide connectivity services, cloud services, IoT connectivity and IoT experience, security. And if you multiply this and goes out of the Telecom Italia boundaries and take what Sparkle has negotiated in terms of agreement, coverage, global connectivity with all the partners that we have interconnected with, you understand that we are really implementing the promise of the Federation. We are really keeping the promise of the Federation.
Wow. Daniele, thank you so much for jumping in. Is it Laurent who wants to add in as well?
Yeah, I mean, very similarly to the experience at Sparkle. So Lumen actually renamed from CenturyLink in September last year, and North American viewers are probably very, very familiar with the CenturyLink brand, obviously being a very large carrier in North America. One of the reasons or the rationale for the renaming was to actually connect more directly with the imperatives of the fourth industrial revolution, having a digital business which is manipulating data, analyzing data, and acting upon it, and that data has an implication from a digital service provider standpoint. In regards to orchestrated services, the multi-cloud diversity, and the software-defined network approach. The Lumen renaming also meant separating the network from the platform, having an overlaying platform supporting all the digital experience for the customers of Lumen, but also other operators globally, to actually, again, through the means of an API marketplace, use the building blocks to transform your business end to end. So it means really from our perspective at Lumen, having multi-service orchestration and automation, to deploy software to the right cloud in the right places and actually securely operate it, to operate a multi-cloud infrastructure with a range of interoperable computing models, which will vary from one business to another, one federation to another. And if you go down below the platform level, to actually run a high performance dynamic networking network, having the attributes to connect building, data centers, cloud, and dynamically adjust the bandwidth based on the workload requirements, which Daniele just referred to. Again, similarly to Sparkle, I feel that many digital service providers across the world are actually rethinking their business model to align against the demand from our customer base, the demand from the federations going forward.
Thank you, Laurent, for adding on to that, and of course, Daniele. So, Simen, I'm going to jump over to yourself if you don't mind. Does a service provider need a state-of-the-art, fully automated BOSS before they implement LSO Sonata?
Well, typically, yes. If you've got a fully singing and fully orchestrated network, then you can be more responsive, you can be more dynamic from collecting an order from your customer and fulfilling it within your own network, and being able to, as Daniele and Laurent mentioned, to go out to my ecosystem of partners and stitch everything up. Yes, that will work a lot quicker. But as they normally say, perfection is the enemy of progress. So by doing that, you can end up in very long expensive development cycles, whilst you're waiting for the true advantage of automation to come along. So you can start off by deploying Sonata. There are systems out there and where you can decouple slightly from your BOSS, provide that automation with the APIs first of all, and then as you upgrade your BOSS to be more automated as you go along, then you can incorporate that as you go along. That allows you, instead of tackling one huge project in one go, you can, as people like to say, how do I eat an elephant? Bite by bite. It allows you to start automating in front of your customers and perfecting your solutions as you go along.
Bite by bite. It's the only way we can start it, right? Well, then let's look at a typical service provider's, their partner ecosystem, and it spans the globe. So not all of them follow MEF-LSO, but also TM Forum. Therefore, is MEF-LSO Sonata seen as a solution for only part of the market and in conflict with TM Forum?
Well, as you know, or maybe people don't know, MEF APIs are actually based on TM Forum APIs. So the void there is not as big as people expect. And I think there is a lot of talk, do I go down MEF based or TM Forum based? Actually, there's a lot of commonality here that perhaps people aren't familiar with. So TM Forum APIs were actually designed for flexibility, i.e. so Daniela and Laurent can decide on certain implementations how they would want to work together based on TM Forum APIs, gives you the full flexibility, but it doesn't necessarily mean that what they've deployed will allow John, let's say you are an operator in the US, to just plug and play in. And that's the real work that MEF has done, taking the TM Forum APIs and creating a true plug and play. So those people have already developed or deployed TM Forum APIs. It's not back to the drawing board. In fact, they're in a big advantage because the gap is very small. And perhaps the history was that when TM Forum and MEF were developing and you're only looking at your own internal APIs, it really doesn't matter how you deployed because I'm not sharing my APIs with anyone else. So for the true federation, we all need to speak the same language. And if all the world speak the same language, we'd all get along a lot better. So the idea is APIs aren't new. The problem is that everyone has their own flavor of APIs. So by having a true plug and play and adopting the same language, then we can all talk to each other. The costs of onboarding partners go down hugely. And that allows Daniela or Laurent to create an ecosystem today. And then tomorrow when a new service is spun up, maybe I need to add additional partners to my ecosystem. And that can be done very responsive. It can be done that dynamically, like the service providers want to offer their services. So there's a lot of harmonization between the two, and we're all talking almost the same language. We're almost there.
Well, and you said everyone has their own flavor of APIs. Then continue, Simen. I mean, how can providers then cope with interoperability of tens or even hundreds of partners when there's a different product offerings and commercial arrangements?
It becomes a real headache. And I'm sure Danielle and Laurent live this every day. And you can see Danielle and Laurent are probably not as grey as I am, but heading that way with this. It's horrible. It means if everyone turns up to the show with their own APIs, you end up managing hundreds of partners with hundreds of different matrices of interoperability. And then that's only for one product. Add another product into there, and then you start the matrix from the beginning. It will take years or months and months and months, even with an established interoperability with a partner. It will certainly take months to spin up new services and products. And I think the industry, the service provider industry, has seen a lot what the hyperscalers have done, the Amazons, how they've started from a greenfield site, which was obviously their advantage, and can spin up a new service in days. And that's what having an API means. It means everyone's speaking the same language, and then it allows Daniela and Laurent to add their, what is a service provider? It's someone who's providing a service. And the competition will be around the service that each person provides, or using a common language. I can bring in players who add and complement what I'm doing. And that may be slightly different that Laurent does, that Daniela does. And that's the differentiation today. Not do I use an API A or API B. That's not the differentiation. That's the hurdle in the market today.
Awesome. So, Laurent, then looking at it in this fashion, what are the benefits of a standardized marketplace to stand up frictionless supply chains?
I feel that to that question, the answer in very, very short answer is to support a faster introduction of innovation. And we've seen that to some extent for the past 12, 15, 18 months with COVID, for example. With COVID affecting many countries across the world, a requirement of having workforces moving from home, working from home, and the explosion of a new technology requirement based on the enterprise. Having some standardized marketplace, API marketplace, again supporting some of these changes, which were all COVID related. I think it's an important new paradigm, which in many ways trigger the acceleration of some of the changes we were anticipating to see across the industry, or at least across our customer landscape. I think from a MEF standpoint, participation to the incubation or working groups on a regular basis give the opportunity to all of these end users to actually shape what those standards going forward should be, or what they will be. They will eventually support or provide the building block to that digital transformation. So it's critical to have not only the service provider, not only having Daniele, Simon, and I meeting on a regular basis at MEF meeting, sharing that vision and trying to find solutions for the whole market at what we should be doing going forward, but having a much wider scope of maybe federation stakeholders coming in, joining us for this discussion at quarterly, weekly meetings, and agreeing on what the terms of the standardized marketplace should be going forward.
All right. Yeah, I fully agree with you, Laurent. Also taking into consideration that the type of the actors is quite changing. At the beginning, it was just telcos, so we could talk for an entire day and perfectly understand each other. But today, on the arena, there are also hyperscalers, there are OTTs. They are talking slightly different language, and they need to have clear reasons in order to adopt this openness, this federation model. At the end of the day, the benefits are evident to everybody, but to try and hammer a business case sometimes is not so easy. But this is also an effort that within MEF, I believe, we are doing really as an industry, moving all together. Here in this call, we have myself and Laurent, representation of the service providers. Simon is representing the system integrators. We are working with Microsoft, that, as you know, is sitting in MEF with Sean Hochul in MEF Board of Directors. So there is a movement. Also, MEF itself is evolving. We are bringing new stuff to the plate. We are not simply writing documents and letting somebody else to read and implement like the Bible or the Gospel. We are also building proof of concept that are really showing how to implement this stuff that we are writing. We are also building severe certification programs that are ensuring that all the people that are following the program will be able to interoperate with each other. And finally, we are also putting, still as MEF, a testing platform, because whenever you want to onboard with another partner, you need to be sure that what you completed within your BOSS infrastructure is suitable to be used by somebody else that wants to interconnect. So all this together is the new MEF, all this together is the new industry, and all this is the evolution that we are doing all together.
Well, and Daniele, I love how you kind of pull that together. You're talking about MEF, how we're working together. Do you see that increasing over the next 3 to 5 years? What's the big picture going to continue to look like?
Well, it must, and I see it evolving. I see really a number of different players entering And look, if you see the recent history of new MEF members, you will notice that there are companies that are not really telcos, service providers, carriers. Look, a couple of years ago, joined Salesforce. Very recently, ServiceNow was joining. Why? Because they understand that what we discussed at the beginning of this very interesting panel, meaning that it's not just to interconnect, but it's to provide different services in different layers of the stack. Now, think that today, multinational enterprises with a very well-organized IT department are able to order and implement an IT infrastructure directly within their infrastructural system. So if they use ServiceNow, ServiceNow can instantiate through Ansible or through other tools, infrastructures, build virtual machines, containers, and stuff like that. Why the same shouldn't be possible with connectivity, especially for those enterprises that needs frequent change management, that needs a lot frequently to change the bandwidth or the destinations. Think about an enterprise using ServiceNow, ordering an infrastructure as a service and attaching it with the private, secure connectivity services up to the application and up to the cloud or up to the data center. That's the future that we see all together. That's the future that we are building in MEF. And that's what I want to see in the next 3 to 5 years.
That is awesome. And it is indeed the future we're building at MEF and building that future together as this unit. So thank you. Thank you, Daniele, for sharing your expertise, as well as Simen and Laurent. Any closing comments that you'd like to make?
Well, stick with us. Come to work in the incubation groups. We are building and we are writing the future. So it's your opportunity.
You've got
Absolutely,
it. Simen, go
I concur
ahead.
with that comment.
Yeah, just to add what Daniela has said, MEF is not about a small list of service providers or even vendors who have been at it for many, many years. MEF is solving problems that are out there, not problems that don't exist. So the more people who come and join and put their problems on the table, I think they'll be very surprised that their problems are common to most, if not a lot of service providers. And by sharing those problems, very quickly we come up with solutions. And we see that as an integrator, working with bringing in different service providers, working with each other, different elements, as Daniela or Laurent said, we're working with, it's not just one service provider, connectivity service provider with another. At the end of the day, the customer is more savvy. He wants to be more flexible. He is actually shedding his IT expertise and wants to go again to the provider of service, the service provider, and say, look, guys, I need a video conference call at a certain hour. I don't know how much bandwidth I need, but I just need some storage. I want to record it. I want some security. So service providers, again, going back to this whole ecosystem, need to be savvy, need to be flexible, bringing different people talking different languages, or bringing in a different expertise to provide that end result of what the enterprise is looking for.
Awesome. Thank you, Simen. Laurent, how about a chance for a closing comment to wrap us up for this segment?
Maybe I'll take my MEF co-chair hat here at the Commercial and Business Committee and put it on. And yeah, again, a rallying cry, a call for people to from a varied range of backgrounds and experiences to join us to help us shaping the future of the industry. I'll echo Simon's comment there and say that yes, we will only be fixing tomorrow's problem by discussing, sharing, and reviewing together today. So yeah, the more the merrier, and it's definitely not a service provider play anymore. We're seeing many enterprises and enterprises forming part of the federation actually joining us on a regular basis, and I'm looking forward to have all of these people joining us on weekly call going forward.
All right. Thank you, Laurent. Thank you all for sharing your time and your expertise. That's going to wrap up this deep dive. So I get to hand it back to the incredible host of episode number 6, John Petz.